Troy, few films have carved out such a cult following like the Boondock Saints. I've always been a fan of the series, both the film, the initial film and the sequel. So when this came across my desk, I was surprised, but I was also very, very excited. And then also, getting the opportunity to chat with you about it, it just seems like a dream come true. Um, what
Well, thank you, Jesse. Let's take a huge CineDump together.
I like it. I like it. I've attended panels for Boondock Saints over the years, and what made you decide that now was the right time to tell this the brothers or origin story?
Yeah. Well, first off, I mean, I love origin stories. I just love them, and especially if it's something we're interested in. But what I think happened was over the last 25 years, this has been the fans have had all these questions, even odd ones and kind of penetrating ones, and I've had to think about, what like why don't they know their father?
Mhm.
You know, how did they meet Rocco? What? So in thinking about it, the story is just brick by brick built up over the last 25 years, largely due to fan interaction. And in the book, Boondock Saints Volume 1, the first book in what I intend to be a very long series, is basically a love letter to the fans. Yeah, we're giving you kind of a prequel, starting the boys out early at 13 years old. They're both in police custody for doing something very naughty. Then we take you through their young adulthood and stuff, and we get the ball rolling in Boston. We get them there, and we get them killing people. But it's all in how that happens. No, two brothers don't just go to the United States and start killing bad guys. I don't think that's happened in the history of the world. So there's a story there. And over the years, I've just thought about it and had been very intimidated by the idea of doing a book. I mean, I always looked at screenplays like, the script is pretty easy. They're like 100, pages. And, regular Joes don't read scripts, they read books.
Yeah.
And being an avid reader myself, I was like, can I really, play with the big dogs here? So for years and years, it had been building. I was just too scared to do it. And then one day I just wrote the first line and it all came rushing out like Niagara Falls.
Well, you mentioned Rocco, and that immediately gets me excited. He plays an important role in their journey. How did writing him on page differ from how fans first met him on screen?
Huh. You know what? That's a great question. Writing him on the page was what I always had intended to do with Rocco's character. But when you're doing a movie, right, you're limited.
Yeah.
You can't do everything you want, especially an independent film that we shot in like 29 days. You can't do everything. Rocco had other aspects to his character that I had always kind of put in there, and I had to kind of I had to in writing him, it was different because he is an extremely street smart guy, right? He's the one that kind of shows Connor and Murphy the underbelly of Boston and how it all works. And he has this kind of connection with Connor, who is also this kind of he's the planner, Murphy might be the more off the cuff type guy, wears his heart on his sleeve, but Rocco, I had always intended that character to almost be the guy that sticks his finger in every hole in the dam and fixes situations before they get crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So if something does get out of control, it has to be pretty extreme if Rocco missed it, right? So I wanted to make him, yeah, this lowly package boy who wasn't really taken seriously, no real chance for advancement in the mob, just wants out, you know? But I wanted to give him this aspect, like in the way I thought about the story from the very beginning. Now I'm getting to not only dive into these characters a lot deeper, show you new facets of each of these little diamonds, but brand new characters, and brand new storylines, and going into background on them too. Once they start killing very bad men, you, what the book is going to give you, what that journey is you're going to know kind of how they got that way. You know,
Yeah.
almost like a sense of Christ. Would I be like that if that happened to me in my childhood? You know, Yeah, I want you to get disturbingly close to all the characters to the point where you're really seeing a lot more in terms of humanity and the kind of spiritual and emotional obstacle course, minefield that these guys have to navigate. And why? Why did they do this?
Yeah.
All of us have the feeling, don't we? All of us say, I'll kill that motherfucker, right? But we don't do it. And these guys seem to have this moral code that's like, no, we can't walk by that. We
Yeah.
can't walk by that. We can't let that breathe the same air as our fucking children. So they do kind of in that way. What Boondock has always been is that these are the guys that do what we wish we could do. All right. But how does that actually happen? Because you'd have to think, I always thought like, like that age-old question, how does it feel to actually kill somebody? I mean, maybe you plan it and do it and you got your cool gun, but then you blow a hole through a guy's head and he's not around anymore. What does that do to you? You know? Because
Mhm.
they obviously take this very seriously. So it's allowed me to explore all the facets of the brothers, or a lot of them. I mean, there's probably going to be new surprises in each consecutive book, but it's allowed me to go way deeper with characters, bring in new ones, and I don't know, just provide a journey for the reader or listener, because we made an audio book out of it too, which I narrated,
Awesome.
and take you on a much more personal journey that takes every aspect of what the fan loves about Boondock and just shoots it full of adrenaline. There was a bunch of one-liners people like. There's dozens more in here. There's a bunch of crazy situations people like. There's a lot more here. There was a bunch of exciting things that the brothers did. There's just more of everything. It's Boondock Saints on acid, and it's we did the audio book, and I was in the studio forever, and um, our audio book is 22 hours.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Awesome.
imagine those fans, man. At 25 years, they've gotten roughly 4 hours of entertainment in two films, you know? And now they got 20 suddenly out of the blue. Here, here's 22 hours. Well, probably half of them are going to go, "Whoa, that's too much." But I'm just dying to see what they have to say about all this, because it's the kind of writing that is just so free for me. I was just dying to get back to the house every day to get knocking get knocking on that keyboard, man. It was like it was the best, most creative, inspiring writing experience I've ever had writing Boondock Saints Volume 1.
Which kind of leads me to where I want to go with this next. I always like to ask authors, once they get a film picked up, it's that big aha moment. But at the same time, it's always like, okay, well, what am I going to do next? So when they write their next book, do they take that book and kind of use that same cinematic eye? So with this book, did you kind of keep in mind like that this could eventually go to film, and did it help kind of guide your writing? Because if this takes off like you and I both know that it will, do you think that it will? Especially I love to hear the audiobook. I'm so glad that that is a thing, because it's gonna really make my commute that much more tolerable. So, so thank you for doing that right off the bat. But I know that there is a storytelling rhythm, that kind of comes with putting it on film. But like ultimately, how did you kind of approach that when you sat down to write this?
Well, I mean, I'm a writer director,
Yep.
so I think that way. That's how I write scripts. They're always cinematic. The book is exactly the same.
Gotcha.
It would obviously translate more to sort of a TV series,
Oh, okay.
hour-long episodes, say, per every couple of chapters. I mean, this is a long one. We got 45 chapters, and like I said, 21 hours of audiobook. You know what, man? The Audible gave us a bunch of free downloads to anybody that could would review it.
Oh,
So if
I'd be happy to. Yeah.
I would love it if you did that, Jesse. I'm dying to see what people think, And I also put in, just this. This is probably like super fans are going to find a secret code throughout the book, right? They're going to find little things that they recognize, and they're going to realize that I kind of wove them in like almost like a tapestry here. So it touches on some of the story elements of the films. Just they've been rethought, re-engineered, and yeah. So we've taken a few of the more iconic moments in Boondock, rethought them, and stitched them on in there. So yeah,
To wrap up, this book, and I think we're kind of tap dancing around it, but it isn't about crime. It isn't just about crime and vengeance, but and I think that this is why it connects with the fans so much, is that it has a lot to do with family and legacy.
yeah,
How important was it for you to ground this story in those themes as well? Because we all love the blood and the bullets, dropping, but at its core, this is a family story, and it connects with so many people because of that.
yeah. That's why I called it Blood Origin. That's basically family and legacy. The reason they come to Boston is to find their estranged father or what happened to him. That's one of the reasons they've come here, other than just their love for America and wanting their piece of the American dream. But they arrive on our streets now when it looks like the American dream's crumbling.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily find what they expected to. But the whole family and legacy part of it is a story that I have had in my heart and soul bouncing around for almost a quarter century. And that's one of the parts I love about this the most, when they do, because they're on this kind of clandestine dark journey to find their dad, all right? But their mother becomes the keeper of all the secrets of the McManus clan, and she does not want her sons knowing about any of this, right? So when and imagine what happened in terms of family and legacy. Imagine what's going to happen when Connor and Murphy realize they have followed in the bloody footsteps of their father and never knew the guy.
Yeah.
That's the thing that God v. man issues and themes are all the way through this, and that's one of the big ones. I mean, imagine what that would do to you if you were doing something so dangerous, yet that you were going by your own moral code you thought had to be done, and then found out your dad basically did his version of the same thing, and you never knew the guy. That would be a spiritual confrontation right there, right? All of a sudden, you're asking yourself questions. Are we part of some fucking bloodline? Have we been chosen to do this, or are we choosing to do this? Right? Because even at the end of the movies, like Connor and Murphy don't stand up on a soapbox and say you have to believe this in Jesus Christ. They basically just say, "Look, don't be assholes, and you're never going to have to deal with us. But if you make the cut, we're coming for you." All right? And that doesn't seem like the most spiritual thing in the world, yet the spiritual plays a huge role here, And
Yeah.
in terms of family legacy, going into dad's past, which we do in Blood Origin, you start to find out what his story is, how he came to America, why, with whom, what he was doing, how he got into the doing what he did at the end of the day, and why he's in prison you know so the family and the blood legacy, it's almost like the other half of the story, right? It's what the cool shit that the brothers say and do, all the fun they have. You're going to see them get the tattoos. Each one will be explained. You'll know the story behind it, and all the stuff they're doing in present day. But these arteries that connect the present and the past are, some of the God side of this, some of the spiritual side of this, and like and yeah, writing it cinematically, like if I can tell you this, like if I was to do a television series out of this, I would have the brothers walk into some pizza joint in present day in Boston and just time morph it to like back in the day when it was a betting parlor. And their dad goes in, does some hard shit. And then Connor and Murphy leave in present day,
Yeah.
and maybe some little thing happens in there, that maybe some bullet hole is still left from back then, you know, and things like
Oh, I like that. I like that.
yeah, and I have like there's so many ideas, and also, similar things happening. If it's something that happened to their dad, like he lost a gun and had to go back and get it, and it was a hot situation, and they realized they did the same thing, but they solve it in two different ways.
Yeah.
It could be really cool. Every time I think about this, I can write this book series forever. The ideas are endless and ongoing, and I can take even established characters and go a lot deeper with them. So
Well,
that's one of the
yeah.
things I love about the sort of book writing process.
Well, Troy, you're a legend, man. This has been so great to chat with you, dude. And like I'm so excited, for this and then what happens next and next. And before I forget, congratulations on the release of this because I know that this is not an easy feat. And so kudos for that. But at the end of the day, man, CineDump lets the doers know how they're doing, and you're doing just fine. Thanks again for your
All
time.
right. All right. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it. We're going to get you the audio book.